Okay, in today's video, we're going to talk about Amazon campaigns, how you basically, if you want to know the secret of getting them to work every time, and you want to make some big time money on Amazon, I'm going to give you the inside scoop on that, of what I've personally seen for the people that make money versus the people that don't overall. This isn't a hard and fast rule or 100% of this is going to apply, but it's applied enough to where this should be absolutely the very first thing you focus on if you're trying to make big money on Amazon, running the ads, having the ads pay for themselves after your expenses of the product, shipping costs, in terms of the packing costs, all of that stuff. If you want to make money, then you have to go about it not thinking like everybody else. This is an outside the box thought plan, which is going to put you ahead of everybody else. And if you weren't aware, and maybe you were thinking this might be true, about 20% of the people are going to be making 80% of the money on Amazon. Okay, respectively enough to where most people are either making barely anything or nothing. You could actually go and see the stats of Amazon sellers who makes what, and you could see that spread. And when it comes to ads, and you're trying to get by and doing paid ad campaigns, particularly ones that'll scale well, then you don't have a choice of just showing up and say, hey, I want in on this too. Let's put a teeny bit of work in this. That ain't gonna cut it, okay? You gotta figure out how to have an edge. This, what I'm gonna give you, will give you an edge. So it's up to you to decide if you wanna be in that top 20% or not, okay? So there's a bunch of different things that people out there, it seems like Amazon ads, videos about Amazon ads here on YouTube is getting to be super popular, and nobody's talking about this main thing here, this big, the 500-pound gorilla or the big white elephant, however you want to say it, about what actually is the main factor whether or not you're probably going to make money with Amazon or not, which is exactly and specifically what I'm going to cover today on this video. So with all that said, I will tell you how to actually do what I'm mentioning here that basically will work mostly every time, not every single time, but as close to that as you can, and have actual actionable information you're going to walk away from this video to be able to use, to be able to set up a profitable campaign on Amazon starting today. So there are a lot of individual factors people say that affect what is called the LOS, or listing quality score, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically a score Amazon gives you that shows basically how well of an advertiser you are, and therefore how many times you'll actually show up on Amazon when people are searching, or to have your product suggested to them versus some other person that wants to also advertise for those same ad spots. And basically also what you're going to end up paying. It's very similar to how all PPC advertising is going on the web. Google has Google Quality Score, Facebook has Relevancy Score, and it's smart because it actually rewards the people who do a good job, and it kicks the behind of the people who are just trying to do the bare minimum. It pushes the cream to the top. Everybody else gets knocked out. You got new players come in. They give everybody a shot. This system's more democratic than not, because it gives the people who really want to do a good job and do stuff like I mentioned in my videos, which are actually going to put in the labor to make a good experience for the users, that you have a chance always to get in. There's going to be no incumbents that just have cemented their place at the top. If you are willing to do more, you can enter in at any time. What has long not been the case is simply showing up and probably making money. I don't care if it's Google, Facebook, whatever. It's getting too competitive. It's been that way for a good 5 years now at least. So people tell you, though, to focus on this quality score, which is true, but that so basically if you are selling anything that's even halfway competitive, okay, or saturated on Amazon, then you're going to need to focus on getting this LOS score up to be in that top 20% I mentioned. And what people on these other videos are focusing on, or articles, what have you, they'll tell you a bunch of different things on how to get this LOS score up. okay? Like the length of the description or the number of images that you offer, okay? So on and so forth, okay? Not to say that those things don't have any effect, okay? There's never, I had a teacher once said that always and never are very strong words that you should rarely use, because almost nothing in this world is always going to be true or never going to be true. So it's all about, people also say, don't assume. But at the same time, in business, we have to be able to work on statistical probabilities. You have to weight things. You got to rank stack things. The people who win in business do that well. You got to figure out what you need to focus on to get your LOS score up to be in that top 20% and not focus on the stuff that barely moves the needle, okay? So what does actually move the needle the most? If you want to be in that top 20% who actually does make good money on Amazon, okay? You need good images. Ding, 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 ding is the main factor here. As good images, so you want good images as good as the top seller in your space has right now. That is the mark. If you wanted to say, I want a 90+% chance of making money on Amazon, Corey, when I run my ads, doing PPC on Amazon, my answer to you is just going to say to have an image, particularly your primary image, but it can be multiple secondary images along with this, as good as the top person who's in your space right now selling what you want to sell, okay? If you want a simple boiled down answer, there you go, that is it. Now there's a whole bunch of details to this and some caveats that I'll throw out there. The big caveat is not always is the image the most important factor, I will admit. Most of the time it is. We're saying 90% of the time it is, 90% plus. One exception, big one, would be like in the electronic space, okay? The computer, it looks cool, but you're not going to sell me on the fact that the computer looks cool. Does it have a better XYZ processing speed, or has a better battery life, or whatever it is? Then the copy becomes more important than the image, even though you can't have a horse crap looking product and image, okay? But an average image with better specs in that type of situation will be able to be the one that rises to the top, okay? So there's some other exceptions. I won't get into it. I just, again, like at the start of the video, I don't want to say that this is 100% true in every case, because different markets it can not be true. Electronics is the one. But if you want as close to something that is true all the time, then the image answer I gave you is the one. It's it. So anyway, now that you know the image is, if you could just focus on this basically and nail it right, you'll make money basically every time. Now, how do I go about doing that? Here's the actual advice I can give you to be able to make this work then the right way for you so that you make money every time. So how do you know? So basically, I'll start off by saying what you want to do, as I mentioned before, you got to have an image as good as the leading competitor, right? Okay, so, and going a step backwards here, step further backwards here, call it quality score. LOS score is on a scale, and that scale is like based upon a curve, just like in school or college. If you went to college, the grades were based upon a curve. You're being graded against everybody else, and with the image being the main factor there, then you're looking to make your image as good as the leading person, because then by default you can end up at the high end of the scale. Amazon charges what they know that they can get away with because they monitor what the likely margin of the products you're selling are, and they raise the cost per click up to a place where only the top 20% or so can afford to pay it, which encourages new entrants to come in and try to beat the people at the top, but not just simply settling for people that are going to do a half-ass job. They're going to want people to come in and try to beat the top people that now have the best user experience for their users, okay? As for why the image, by the way, is doing the best, I had for the second part of this title is how Amazon works like online dating. I always try to do in marketing, use analogies and look at other research studies in terms of marketing and PPC or marketing in general. Half of it's user psychology, half of it's math. Online dating, there's some interesting experiments where they've like taken a really picture of a really handsome guy, like a male model or whatever, and they'll put on the description like some rancid crap, like I like to, you know, I won't even get into the vulgarity stuff. You can search for these case studies, but basically you can put whatever the hell you want on the description. It will not matter. You could literally say, I like to beat the crap out of women, and if your picture is sexy enough to the women, they don't care what you say. You could start talking to them. You could say the most vulgar crap. There's nothing you can say other than short of, I'm going to kill you, basically, that would get the women to reject you if your picture looks like you're handsome enough. So ultimately, I just thought of that. I've seen that before, and this Amazon thing it's similar in that when you're using the dating sites, that image is what you're using to judge whether or not you're going to go for it or not. On Amazon, it's the same way. You're using the image to see if you're ever even going to click on anything at all there. And then once you've gotten to the page, 90% of the time, depending on how attractive that image looks, I'm going to buy it or I'm going to buy something else. I know this because I've looked at a bunch of different campaigns, tested things. I'm just giving you what I found here. Again, can be different for a few different markets, but for the most part, this is definitely true. No matter what's said there on the description, the image is good enough. You make that picture sexy enough, you're going to sell. You're going to be the top one that sells, and you're going to keep being more successful. Amazon gives the traffic, the organic traffic, as well as more PPC traffic to the person who needs it the least, therefore is doing the best already. So if you are set yourself up to succeed, you're just going to get more and more and more success. So your whole entire goal is to figure out how to make that image the best. And the easiest way to do that is to simply copy the person that's already got the best results, therefore the best image to copy. That way you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I always recommend not reinventing the wheel if you don't have to. You're always looking for the most sure way to make money. That might take more work, but who gives a crap about how much work it takes? As long as it's making money and pays for itself, then I'll do it. So how do you know how to copy? Well, on Amazon, it's so easy because they have the seller's rating. So you just look through all your competition. Who's got the highest seller rating? Okay? Because a lot of people think seller's rating, oh, they've been in business a while. That's why they got a high seller rating. No. They figured out how to have their listing sexy enough to the average general public to make sure it rose to the top. Of which, again, in 90% of the cases, can be your product photo. Okay? Simply put. So you start out, Joe Schmo shows up. Again, like I said, this is the most fair system out there. In terms of being fair for anybody can get rich. As long as you show up and do a better job, you get all the customers now. Even if Amazon's been giving it to the same guy for 10 years straight, you do slightly better than him, show up with nothing, and you now suddenly get it all. They do not give a crap. There is no, what they call in third world basic countries where there's a good old boy system. Everybody there is none of that. There's no kickbacks. There's none of that. You start out with a good image that's going to be as good, like I said, as at least the top guy. By looking through and just making a spreadsheet, who's got the top seller's rating, who's got the top rating, because whoever's got the top rating is the one that sells the most, and who sells the most, they got there somehow, okay? So you have to conclude that if they got to be there at the top, they didn't do it by having some inheritance that they blew to get to the artificially get the sales through PPC ads to get to the top. No. I could tell you for a fact that I run a PPC agency here. 95% of the people that come to me, they don't have unlimited money to lose or willing to lose before they get things to where they're spending, 10 grand a month plus on ads. It's got to work, and then they scale it. So they had to start out with something that worked. So if you take that, what I just told you, and apply it to what I said about finding the person with the highest seller rating, Well, you have to assume that that person's already done the work that you that you want to copy, therefore you don't have to do if you can just copy theirs, if you will. Okay? So you don't get that opportunity on Google or whatever. A lot of people at Google aren't making money with their ads. You copy the wrong person, you're toast. I've got a video about how to copy someone's Google campaigns. You can search that if you want, by the way. Start out with a good image, though. Copy from the competitor. Assuming that you do this, you get a high click-through rate on your ad because they like the dating apps. All people give a crap is, are you going to make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside because your picture is sexy? I'm clicking on it. You get a high click-through rate, okay, because people mainly still care about the image. You now have a high conversion rate on the traffic that comes to your listing page. So what you ultimately end up having here is what they call a high conversion rate per impression. Now, this is a term that you're not going to hear many people say, but the big YouTubers, Meet Kevin has a really incredible video about the YouTube search algorithm, which works similar to this, and as does with any PPC. It's all carries over. It's transitive how all this stuff works, which their goal of these, it doesn't matter what platform it is, their goal is to get people what they want, give people what they want, and they give people what they want by analyzing everything that people did on the platform, and whatever got good marks by watching if what the people clicked on, were they satisfied or not, but did they go back and click on something else, they decide to show it more and more and more. And what they use to boil down and to have run their calculations to see who's doing the best, what they really want is this, what is a high conversion rate per impression. So in other words, out of how many times they showed something, your product, how many times out of the times they've shown it did somebody buy? That is actually a combination of click-through rate plus conversion rate. So when somebody searches for a plant waterers, they see a bunch of products there. Who out of the list there, historically, because they're monitoring every single move every user makes and databasing it to power their algorithm to see who should rank in the future, they see who gets not only high click-through rate, but who buys when they get there. High click-through rate on its own, they don't care about. High conversion rate on its own won't be good enough either. So there's a combination of click-through rate plus, or if you want to say click-through rate times conversion rate, gets them some metric of this so-called high conversion rate per impression, how efficient you can turn one of their users that have XYZ need at that particular time into somebody who's a satisfied customer. You satisfy these needs for Amazon, they push you, and it seems unfair eventually because the top guy just keeps getting richer and richer and richer. It's actually like similar to capitalism in general, right? The rich keep getting richer because they just keep making money on their money. Well, at least with this case, you don't have to start out with millions. You can just start out with more effort put in. If you don't have the money, that's what you do. So if you have this high conversion rate per impression, now you get future higher rankings organically, okay? You get the higher ranking, which leads to even higher sales and more data that reconfirms to Amazon that you should be the one who ranks higher. And then you go up and up and up. And theoretically, if you start at the bottom of the list, you can end up at the top of the list on Amazon in terms of search results or how you're recommended in the recommended items section. Just by having Amazon slowly figure out that you're the person who has the highest conversion rate per impression, like I talked about, which is a derivative primarily of the sexy image that you have. So it all comes down to that, like I said. And then it just is a self-perpetuating mechanism. So your goal is to have the sexiest image so that when Amazon starts to evaluate your capability of earning or generating, I should say, a high conversion rate per impression, you show them that you have some potential and that eventually that it is as good as the top person in your space already, okay? So It's a lot of work, of course, to be able to do that, because you have to, theoretically, every item you sell, you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to beat the top person selling that exact same item. And so you have to have a strategy for every single item you sell, theoretically, okay? Obviously, if you sell, like horticulture supplies, plant growing supplies, you can kind of use the learnings that you learned about one item to it carries over to another. That's true. But it's still at the same time, what works for one item isn't going to be a direct copy over, because each item has a different shape and size, and therefore how you zoom in versus not zoom in, or do you have drop shadow, or all that stuff should actually technically be different to have maximum optimization for each item image that you have, and therefore to get ranking organically and have the PPC work. I talked about organic ranking. The organic, and the reason for that, by the way, is the organic ranking that you get for the item is almost identical to the system that Amazon and PPC has for this LOS score that determines how much you're paying per click and how many impressions you're going to get. Do they want to send all the traffic to you, or do they not? If you have a low enough LOS score, they just won't even want to send any traffic to you no matter how much you're paying. So actually what happens is you advertise, you're making a return, you can scale up your spend a little bit more. Because you've scaled up your spend and because you're getting good metrics, your organic traffic goes up. And then because now you have quite a bit of money coming in, so you reinvest in a little bit more ad traffic. And then now Amazon wants to push your product a little bit more organically. Because you've gotten good metrics, but there's a secret. Amazon actually wants to promote the people who actually give them money, are willing to give them money, not freeloaders. So you'll see about half of your money will come from the organic, and the more paid you do, the more organic you do. Well, a lot of people think, oh, I just need organic because I can't afford paid. No, come up with a good enough image so that you can convert at a high enough rate on your paid that it pays for itself, so you can slowly, a little bit at a time, raise your ad budget, and then your organic comes along with it. If you just try for the free traffic, it's like you just never will get anywhere, because you've never put the work in actually to figure out what Amazon wants to rank in the first place, if you will. And if you have, you'll have money coming in anyway, and then eventually you'll want to do PPC. So I just don't see very many people anymore that just make money on free traffic. It just doesn't exist, because if it goes hand in hand. If you're relying on free traffic, that means your business is probably not optimized. Therefore, you shouldn't get free traffic, okay? Now, as far as these images go, what normally are the images that work? Lifestyle images are generally, as a whole, are the ones that work the best. Why? Because they show and catch your attention the most. So instead of just the product, in other words, somebody holding the product, somebody using the product, that kind of thing, because it does two things. It shows the usefulness of the product for the user in a way that you can pick up instantly. They say you can process images like 1,000 times faster than you can process meaning of words, even though words can portray something that sometimes images obviously can't, so they have their own use. But the fact that you have somebody using the product, they instantly know then what that product can do in like a millisecond, basically, right? And so everything is about trying to make it easier for the user to decide, because the one who makes it the easiest to decide on is going to get a majority of the sales, and therefore all the rankings, and all on and on and on. So basically with that, my tip to you is, so obviously you could look at your competitor and get ideas, but you don't have to stop there, okay? And particularly because their product might be a little bit different design. And by the way, if your product's way different than the leading competitor, I would say before you even get started, I'd backpedal and I would just try to order their product, look at it, and get a product made like theirs, or source one. A lot of people, you can just send that product to China, say I want one like this but slightly different so it's not a direct copy, because you already know that's the winner. Why not bet on the winner and start out with as firm of firm standing as possible with what you're doing? That's what I would recommend doing if I was starting out on Amazon, okay? So once you've done that, you're on of course you're starting from a level playing field. Now you add your edge in on the top. So you look at the lifestyle image that they have, and let's figure out a better lifestyle image so we have an even greater edge so we can even beat them. How do I know what lifestyle image will work the best? Well, you kind of know by theirs what people are attracted to, and they've spent all the money to split test and everything. But what I do when I make other ads, I'm going to go look at the reviews for the product, that person's product as well as the other products. I'm going to go look on any review sites, any other forums, any Reddit threads, anything and everything where people are talking about the use of that product, what people feel like they wish were improved about that product is the main important thing. And then, so with that, you can demonstrate with your product that the top concern people have that they wish the product did is not a problem, because you're visually demonstrating it's not a problem in the photo itself, okay? Let me give you an example. I had somebody who sold a like a dresser with drawers, and people, to show the durability of this product, this particular client had somebody stand physically on the drawers, okay? And that demonstrated the quality of the product, it being a super heavy duty product. So when you see that image, you instantly know that one's quality. So if in your mind, so if we know the biggest concern is this cheap Chinese garbage product here, which by the way, Chinese products can be good or bad. It's the people who are being cheap that determine whether or not a product's good or bad, by the way. But obviously people make that reference. So is this a cheap Chinese crap, or is it good quality thing? And obviously made in the USA is an indicator to that. But even better, to even get that considered, which you list on your product page, you have an image that shows physically it trying to be broken or tortured, and it's not giving up, it's not letting in, it's not allowing itself to be damaged, okay? So that's an example of how you would actually go about doing this. So A, just try to copy the image, the product design that's the winner. B, try to do more research than them in terms of lifestyle image that works. If there's 2 or 3 different main concerns that people have, maybe you try split testing the image. There's no reason why you can't run a product for a month. If it didn't, and monitor just simply how many sales you're getting, and then try another one and just find the best one that way. Yeah, that way. If it were me, I would be doing that, okay? So obviously at the end of that, if you go through that exact process I told you, you're going to wind up with the image that supports the product that most people want to click on. With it being the biggest factor, now you're almost assuring to guarantee yourself that you're going to be in the top 20% who make basically good money, make most of the money in the space, and almost guaranteeing that you're going to therefore make a profit from what you're doing on Amazon, not only short term, but then build on what you've built, adding in more products, doing the same thing, and eventually building a multi-million-dollar a year business for yourself in the process. So with all that, even if, most people, even if they saw this video, they're not going to do anything. Why? Because it's going to take a lot of effort to do what I said. So it's up to you whether or not you become, King Midas here or not. So, because realistically, these lifestyle images, at the same time as this is what helps the user decide in a millisecond as they're quickly that they see all these, they search for something, they see all these products, they're scanning. They're just basically glazing over the images at that point, in terms of how they behave, and then they're just clicking on the one that looks the most interesting to them. Lifestyle images being the one that usually works the best, which is why I recommended it to you. So with that, what helps the user the best and seems the most interesting, both of which gets the highest click-through rate there, and then because it's useful, gets the highest conversion rate on top of it once they get to your page. These are actually the hardest ones to get because you physically got to hire a model and do a photo shoot for the product. Not only that, but to do a lifestyle image that actually works the best and is going to outcompete your competition, you got to do research on what people are fed up about the product so that you can take a better lifestyle image of them than them if they have one already, or if there's a lot of people that have one, right? And of course, your product, if people are fed up that it breaks all the time, and your product's crap, well, you got to go and you got to fix the problem with the product first. Then you got to take a lifestyle image so you can visually demonstrate that it's no longer a problem. Now you can win. So there's a process involved with this. And so whether they just have to pay for a photographer and a model and all that, regardless of what is left out of that list I gave you, in 90% of the categories, it's going to be difficult to go ahead and execute on this. So therefore, it's a lot of work, but if you do it, you're the one who wins. And like anything else in life, if it was easy to do, somebody else would already be doing it. You want your edge, you got to be willing to do what nobody else is willing to do. Otherwise, you're going to get everybody else's results, which most people aren't making, jack money on Amazon, okay? So anyway, that's my whole 2 cents about Amazon, how it works like, online dating, how you can set yourself up with a campaign that basically will work every time as long as you put the work in. I have a ton of other videos about other PPC money-making strategies on this channel. If you haven't seen any of my other videos before, you should check those out. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns for yourself, which I build for my clients now and which guarantee their results. You may want to check those out. If you have any questions about Amazon, anything you think I should have covered or don't understand, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment or concern on this channel within a day or two. But I hope that inspired you to do a little bit something different with your Amazon, a little bit different with your images, so you be the one that's in the top 20% of your market. That ultimately goes on to make a whole lot of money and the one who wins at this game on Amazon in the first place.